This is going to be a drinks coach again. Um, Maybe the last before I move up to Cambridge for Christmas. You might see a bit more content before Christmas. But if you're not watching it on this channel, you can watch it on Instagram. Instagram is Vinesack at Vinesack. Um, what am I doing here? Okay, yes. Um, Effie Tonsova, a friend. I don't know if I even pronounce her surname correctly, but Effie, somebody that I met many times over the years in the industry, and a good friend of mine, Andrew Johnson, who is the managing director of Woodwinter's Wines and Whiskies, um, invited me to their press tasting. The press tasting was at the Institute for the Society of Chemists, I think, which is right next to the Joshua Reynolds statue in the quad at the Royal Academy of Piccadilly, which is about as bling as it possibly could get. I went to one side and he'd allowed somebody to share the space with him of very, very good Spanish wines. We'll come on to those at some point, I imagine. But then I went in to his main room where he's always looking for exciting wines, always believes in fine wine doesn't necessarily have to come from the most expensive places, although he's drunk more Card than anybody else I've ever met. But yeah, this is an opportunity to look at some wines which I tasted with Effie at the stand and with Andrew and his wife, actually. And these wines are Greek. Okay, you know, in the past, anybody who's a genuine follower of me knows that I've been very, very excited by what Greece is doing now. But now everyone is. So I'm no longer the guy that saw it first. I didn't see it first, but I mean, that really championed it. Um, but there are lots and lots of people out there looking for exciting wines in Greece, and we're discovering almost on a daily basis new exciting grape varieties in new exciting places. We have now headed off to the Cyclades. Yes, we're in the Cyclades, the Cyclade Islands, where we're in a place which is called the Paros Farming Community. Paros is an island in the Cyclades, and I'm going to show you a sparkling wine. I'm also going to show you two whites and two reds. They're both made from the same grape variety. They're just like one's kind of the pimp my version of the other. You understand? One's the reserver of the other. So we're just going to race through these almost unseen, and I'm just going to give you the stream of consciousness as we go. So let's start with this. Not expensive by any stretch of the imagination, but also a bit unusual. This is Extra Brut Rosé Millésime 2023 Méthode Charmat Seraili Van Musso. So they make a sparkling on the island, and the sparkling is made from the grape varieties. It's both the white and the red are made from. So on the right hand side, we've got Monemvasia, and on this side, we have Mandelaria, should I say. They're mixed together 50-50 to make a Charmat, which is a tank produced sparkling wine, like some premium English sparkling wines, but mostly you'll recognize it as the Prosecco method. I think Prosecco kind of denigrates it a bit because there are wines that are considerably better made that way. Asti is a fantastic example. So this is a wine that comes at 12% alcohol. It's pink. Don't think I've ever tried a sparkling wine from Greece. Let's have a crack at this, shall we? Ooh. Okay, nice sounds. The sound of a glug. Can't beat it, can you? Well, it's a lot more complex than I expected. I expected it to be kind of a fruity number. It's quite nutty. I could even go as far as saying slightly cheesy, but in like a good way. There's kind of like I wouldn't say autolytic character, but there's a developed character there. Lovely acidity. It's got a dry, bright, you know, that kind of, Snow White, evil, the red apple, the nasty, when you bite into a fresh, juicy red apple with a white flesh. That's the flavors I'm getting. Really kind of a little bit of tannic red apple action here, which is very attractive. I don't want to meal over this for too long because it is what it is. It's a charmat from an island in the middle of Greece. But if I was out there, I'd be drinking this in a pint glass. Dudes, delicious. Lovely. And I think it's at a fantastic price. For a small producing community, small farming community, in an area where drinks and wines are, inherently quite high in price. It's about £18 for a bottle of that. Um, if you bought a bottle of very serious prosecco, if there's such a thing, it would cost more than that, and it's around the price of prosecco, I think. So delicious, no complaints, and a nice start for 10, and a nice way to cleanse my palate before I move on. So, as I said, there are lots of wine grape varieties popping up here and there and everywhere. Um, I think the producer is called Cyradi, is it? But the Paros Farming Community, um, it's kind of like I think a co-op is wrong when it says farming community. Everything's a collective, so let's call it the Paros Collective. I think that's much better in terms of music. Everyone contributes to the creativity of it. I think in a co-op you make great grapes and then you give it to a guy and you trust them to make the best wines for you. Here, there's much more of a diplomacy, much more of a forum about what's going on, as I understand it. Um, and you know, you're just north of Santorini, where the wine's now going for so much money. I mean, it's literally cha-ching. It's been their kind of Yukon gold rush. Who knows what that won't happen here? So I'm going to pour these two while I talk. 13% alcohol. This is the Manam Vasha 2023. Um, so we'll just pour some of that in there. I believe there's quite a lot of batonnage in the tank. So the wine is stirred on its lees to give it some mouthfeel. I think it's otherwise would be quite lean. But also, we're talking about like in technique anyway, a Greek Chablis, a Greek Muscadet, something like that, where you've got minerality um, bolstered by stirring on the dead yeast cells in the bottles, in the tanks. This is the same vintage, which is great, so we can get to see them side by side and see what makes the posh one fussy, yeah, better. Anyway, look at that! Boy, isn't that gorgeous? That's one of the gorgeous. That's one of the sexiest looking bottles I've seen all year. Screen printed, lovely kind of shape. It reminds me of the shape that you see Yellow Vassilios Malagousia in. So maybe it's a traditional Greek shape. It's not something that I otherwise have seen elsewhere. But it's a beautiful looking bottle. Um, let's plop some of that in, shall we? Okay. Well, it's considerably darker in quality. Okay, so here we are. First time I'm tasting Manam Vasha on camera, and the first time I tried it was with them. And I remember thinking at the time, in a sea full of really interesting and unusual wines, um, Andrew going, "You got to try these, mate. You got to try these Greek wines." And as he always is, he provided me with something which was a real story. Um, this is the entry level one. Again, considering this is tiny production imported by a small fine wine whiskey importer who makes a lot of their money, frankly, out of trading very, very expensive wines. Um, this is, I think, great value. It's £18. So £18 doesn't buy you a decent Chablis anymore, but it looks like it. It's got that gloss. When you batonnage a white wine, it has a steely, silvery quality about it. And I don't know whether that's the pellicules and microscopic molecules of whatever it is that the yeast leaves behind. But, oh, God. I remember the description of this online. It was something along the lines of, "This reminds me of the smell of walking up a brow over a hill and seeing an orange grove, and the smell of the dew from the grass. It's grassy and dewy and morningy and strawy." Wonderful, wonderful picture painted from something I have a direct connection with. It is grassy and earthy, but clean at the same time. There's a description. It's not quite the same, but there's a description that's now being used in wine called petrichor, which comes from the Greek meaning hot stone. And it's the smell of water evaporating after a monsoon or after a rainfall. You get that smell of baked earth drying, which is evocative and it gives you the feels, right? So there's this. I think at £18, if it's lacking anything, it's lacking density and concentration of a noble variety. But there's nothing else missing. It's it's not dissimilar to maybe a slightly aged, a 1 or 2 year old Gruner Veltliner from Austria. Um, maybe someone from the south of France. I'm just about to engage very seriously with a company who I think makes brilliant wines up and down the Languedoc-Roussillon. And this wine reminds me maybe claret or something like that, with a little bit more acidity, I would say. Oh, there's a gazillion things you could eat with that. It's made, I think, for goat's cheese and sheep's cheese, and which is kind of lucky in it because that's all they make there. I bet that the cooperative makes some sheep's cheese, which is just an absolute storm with that, especially young, fresh, 3 or 4 day old, maybe 10-day old curd with peppery green olive oil glugged over it, a crack of black pepper, some sourdough straight out of the oven, hot, sliced, with that on it, crunch, glass of that, Sunday morning after the church, if that's your thing, or before the rugby, if that's your thing. There we go. What an amazing little wine, and very, very different. So please look this up. Woodwinters, look at Woodwinters, just put Woodwinters online and then put in Paros Farming Community, and this will come up. So this is the Pimp My Paros, my Menavasha. This is where that's £18. This is an extra £8. I think it's £26. Ah. Do you remember I just said that the one thing that's missing is the concentration? Not missing anymore. Incredible breadth. There's more venosity, although they're the same age. This wine bizarrely shows a little bit more development, but I think that's because there's more extract to start with. It is bone dry, and very few wines are anymore. And I think a lot of people out there, the secret few of us, are looking for those bone dry wines, which go great with things like powder cheese or Edam cheese with caraway or cumin seeds in. Those like little cubes of cheese that you drink in pubs in Belgium and Holland. Nutty. I mean, just a cube of 3-year-old Parmesan with that. It's just that's a revelation. Absolutely fantastic, and it's dry enough that you go the full protein, go high, go lobster, go crab, go fatty fish, pelagic fish. Let's go like red snapper from Mediterranean. I think they've done it. This is a wine which I've never heard of before. It's a great variety I've never heard of before, but they're on my radar now. These are fine wines, and we're paying less than 30 quid for them. If you're paying £41 now for good Santorini Assyrtiko, then look at this as the value option. Fantastic. Let's go on to the reds. Now, there's a red on the island, Mandallaria, which is grown in other islands too. Where are we? See on Santorini actually. In some cases, eye-watering prices. Um, this is uh, the Mandallaria sort of like entry. So this is also £18. So this is the same price as the entry one. So I'm just going to open that first. And this is 2024. So this is actually younger than the white. And I think it's going to be younger than the other bottle, which I think is 22. Okay, so let's pour this very quickly. How are we doing for time? It's not even 15 minutes yet. Am I boring you? Hopefully not. There we go. Let's plop that in there. Sexy bottles again. Oops. Okay, let's put that down there. Oh, I can find the cork. There we go. And then look at this beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, nothing wrong with that, is there? Okay, right. They call this cuvee topos. Does that mean top cuvee? I wouldn't know. It's like if I were a rich. That's topol, isn't it? That was terrible. I'm sorry. Rewind, erase. Okay, right. So here we are. This is the 2020, the £26 version, and it's 2 years older. I'm guessing because it's red. There may well be a couple of other things to say about this wine. I'll come on to them in a moment. Manamvasya, Manemvassia, Manamvasya, Vassia spelt, and then Mandallaria. Mandallaria is a wine which has a great variety, which has thick skins, interestingly, but very pale wine. because there isn't that much pigmentation in the skin to start with, but also if you over extract and you get the colours, it's a bit like the Pinot Noir story. If you over extract, you get the colours you expect from a normal red wine, which is beyond kind of what is essentially Valpolicella cherry in colour. You end up with wines which have feverish tannins, which you can't get rid of, and that's a waste of time. So here we are, 2024, lovely, glossy, colour of Morgon, or maybe a Saumur, unlike Saumur AC from the south, from the Loire. You smell it, you see it. It's got a lovely, crunchy, herby fruit character on the nose. It's leaves and herbs and a smattering of red currants. If that, it's not bulldozing you with fruit, even though you're in Greece. What's extraordinary about this wine is it's just not it doesn't smell of Mediterranean ripeness. It's got a delicacy and elegance. It's dry again, and it's got that lift and almost floral quality, which Saumur, like a co-op Saumur, would have from the Loire near Angers. You're sitting there at a tour station. You go over the road to the local bistro. You ask for a steak frite with some, I don't know, maybe peppercorn sauce, and you want a bottle of house red, and it comes over and it's like that. But we're not in Tour. We're not in Loire. We're not in a climate which is almost English. We're in Greece. This must be such a relief for people because it's so refreshing. Sinnom Mavro is also refreshing, but it's getting more expensive. Yeah, Ayorgitiko can be big, concentrate, powerful wines. There are lighter versions, but they do have still this core of tannin. I suppose this does too. But the point is that this wine is light relief from the heat, even though it's a red wine. Very, very exciting red from a very, very nice little business. And you can taste that it's handmade without it having any wonky donkey flavors. Right, let's try this. This is 2 years older. I don't know what the vintage conditions were like, but there is a deep depth in color here, I think. I was told they actually put some Manamvasha grapes in here. So this is co-fermented with a little bit of white wine, the same way that Côte Rôtie in the south of France is Syrah with a handful of bunches of Viognier to give it some kind of lift and separate. So there we go. There is a gaminess there. There's a bit of funk. And rather than reminding me of something unsavory like a southern French Bretty wine, it's not like that. Although there is a hint of bread there. I don't mind that. It has the taste of Italy stitched through it. It's really weird that when you look at Cinnamavro in Macedonia and it tastes like Barolo in northwest Italy. And this wine, although it's an island just north of Santorini, if someone had asked me to stake where this wine was from, I would have said the Marche. I would have said it was Montepulciano d'Abruzzo. I would have been 50% sure. But it's a lovely wine. I think with you can imagine dry herbs on a very slow cooked shoulder of lamb, kind of cleftico kind of thing. I think this wine would be absolutely adorable. It does have some game, and if it's got game, you should have some cheese with it as well. There you go. So, what are my favourite wines here? Like the fizz. I think the two whites are fantastic, and honestly, I would pay the £18 for the entry level red, which is just so un-Mediterranean, unarid, so lifted and fresh and friendly, and so versatile as a food wine. Uh, I would drink that over the one that's 2 years older and £8 more expensive. There you go. I've said it. Hope that was okay, Andrew. Yeah. Some lamb in the mood.